Welcome back to Man the Helm podcast. This is the first in-person podcast at the lovely Tone Central Station. It's actually where myself and Mr. K. Butler here first met.
We sure did. Absolutely.
That good shred competition that you provided one of your awesome guitars for the winner.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it definitely was. And ever since then, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really familiar with any of your stuff. I've seen some of the stuff in the shop, but I had not even really heard of you. But the Shark in particular, that model right there is killer.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
super
Thanks.
enamored with that because I think we've talked before. It's super familiar, but it's not the same.
For me as a designer and a builder, that's really the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I don't want to necessarily copy anything. Who needs that? But I do think it's important that things have somewhat a familiar feel when you pick it up.
For sure.
I've always thought that, there's innovations. When you talk about guitar innovations, there's been a lot of very advanced, innovative guitars come out over the last 15, 20 years.
Absolutely.
But man, they have been, for as good an instrument as they weren't hugely successful. And in a lot of times it's just because they didn't look cool or they didn't quite feel right.
Right.
But they might stay in tune absolutely forever, or the neck might never move no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's a hugely, technologically, and it's an advanced instrument.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean anything if people don't want to pick it up and play it.
For sure. And I always use the adage of as guitar players, we play with our eyes first.
Absolutely.
If it's something we know and it's something that looks aesthetically pleasing, we're going to be more drawn to it.
That's 100% correct. And I've seen so many, again, very nicely advanced guitars, but they look like a candy bar or a spaceship or something.
Yeah.
It's hard to grab it. And you're right. If it doesn't look cool and make you feel cool when you put it on, you're not going to buy it. You're not going to go so far as to find out how nice it plays or how good it sounds.
Yeah.
If it doesn't get your eyes first.
Yeah, and a lot of people that have played for long enough, they have these ideas in their head of what they already want.
Certainly.
And it's hard for any person that is set in their ways to kind of deviate from that. So I think that's what really appeals with these guitars is especially the Shark model, like I said, because it's different, but it's not so different that I'm like, ooh, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Man, I got to tell you that you could not pay me a bigger compliment, because that's exactly what I really try to do, and I appreciate that you said that. And yeah, this is that guitar has been very popular, and people keep coming back for them. I've got several customers who have multiples of them,
mm-hmm.
and they're always, there's a stock version of it on the spec sheet, but they're actually all a little different. There's a few little things here and there that I do just because.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the best part about buying an instrument from someone like yourself is you're talking to the individual that is building the instrument. So any little detail, as myself as a customer, if I were to be like, hey, could we try this, or maybe we could do this, and we can kind of whiteboard this out real quick, and then kind of tinker and get a different aspect to the same model that we're talking about.
Yeah, and you know what? That's one of the things about when you're dealing with a boutique builder or a small builder, a custom guy. Those are things you can do that you really can't do with the larger companies. I guess if you got enough money, you can get anything done.
Yeah, right.
But I'm always open to taking things in a little different direction, because really it's all about as with anything, as it should be. It's about the customer and what the customer wants.
For sure. Well, and that's the one thing. Providing value as a company for your customers is really what the key is there.
It is.
And having that back and forth conversation that you can always have. You're not going to get that from any of these, like, top 4 brands that you could name off your head. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you could go to a shop, you could get something, you could find something that is going to do the job for what you want, but there's always something with me that I always am like, man, I really wish this guitar had this, or I wish I could change, you know what I mean? Or if it was just a little bit different here, or if the scale length was just a little bit different, then I could go with it. But there's always one little thing, and that's what appeals to me about boutique builders, is I can spec out everything that I want to the exact standard that I want, within reason, of course.
Yeah, as you say, within reason, there does have to be a limit of some sort,
Right.
Because you don't want to. I still have to have my identity.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm probably not gonna make someone a custom body shape.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or a custom headstock. I've got my headstock design, and that's kind of what it is. But
Yeah.
if you wanted it flipped over, if you wanted the 6 line as a lefty, yeah, sure, we can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you gotta stick to your signatures and the things that make them yours. But the rest of it's wide open.
Yeah. Well, before we get too far into the conversation, let's kind of go backwards a little bit. Let's get your backstory. Like, what made you start? Let's get embryonic. What made you start getting into music, guitars? We can go as far back as we want to right now.
So, the back in '95, the guitar industry as a whole contacted me and said they just needed somebody handsome out there.
Oh, yeah.
Out there making guitars, and I was like, yeah, I mean,
yeah, if it has to be me,
I guess I'll do it.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I did start back in '95. I was very fortunate. So let me go back just a little before that. I grew up as a bass player, and there was a short time period in my life where I had a record deal and was touring and doing some things like that. And during that time, I actually had a Gibson endorsement.
Okay.
So the cool thing about that, at that time, back in those days, Gibson had an artist relations office. I don't know if they still have this or not, but you could go in and kind of pick things off the wall, and you just check them out like a library book and say,
nice.
I'll be back in a couple of months.
Right.
And it was great. So I had some good relationships there. And when it came time to get a real job,
right,
I was very fortunate to get sort of an entry-level position in the Gibson custom shop.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed my time there. But right away, I noticed that there was a group of guys that were kind of getting to do all this cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting to do, the one-off pieces for artists, and they were doing a lot of repair work, and they were doing design work for new models and prototyping. And I was like, man, how can I be down with those guys?
Yeah, I need to shoehorn my way in here.
Yeah, and after talking to those guys, it turned out that they had all gone to Lutheran school, and they'd gotten an education and learned the craft.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. I took a leave of absence and went to school, came back to Gibson. They put me in that group.
The Cool Kids Club.
Yeah, got in the Cool Kids Club. It was kind of called, at the time, it was called the Pro Shop.
Okay.
It was like a small division within the custom shop. It was just, 5, 6 guys.
Okay.
And so I was there for, I want to say it was around 7 years.
Okay.
And got to do some really fun stuff there. Got to put my education to work,
For sure.
And made some mistakes.
Yeah.
Fresh out of the box there, I may have messed up a couple things, but I got to do some great stuff there. Some design work, some prototyping, and working on artist signature pieces and things like that. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Nice.
But while I was there was a company who they were primarily known for entry-level instruments that would be sold at mass retail, like Walmart, Target, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was a company called First Act.
Yep.
Well, First Act, decided that they wanted to start a custom shop. They wanted to start. They wanted to have some American-made pro-level guitars. So we had the discussion. I took the position, and I also hired 2 or 3 other guys from the Gibson custom shop to move up to Massachusetts with me.
Okay, yeah.
And man the First Act custom shop.
Nice.
And it was a wild ride, to be honest. I got there, and these guys handed me a company credit card and a key to a building and said, "Go make guitars.
Do your thing."
Yeah, I'm like, all right,
Hey,
here we
that
go.
works for us.
Yeah, so we, of course, look, within a year or a year and a half, we had well over 100 artists on the road playing the First Act brand name,
Yeah.
which prior would have seemed insane.
Absolutely.
Really. But and their whole goal with the custom shop was to lend credibility to the brand name, to sell more at Walmart.
Absolutely, 100%.
And I get it, and it was difficult to really swallow that pill, because we all wanted to conquer the world of guitars.
Absolutely.
But to be honest, it didn't matter. No matter how nice the guitars that we made there may have been, and no matter what artists were playing them, still had that brand name on it.
100%. Now, I will say, I have run into a few of those. A friend of mine got some off Reverb, and they are fantastic guitar.
Thank you.
But you're 100% correct, because the first time I ever saw one in person, I was just immediately like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm good.
And that was a common common response until they picked it up,
Right.
actually. And they're like, oh, this is a real guitar.
Yeah.
But most of the bands back in the early mid 2000s, like all those guys that were playing Warped Tour and stuff like that, every one of them had at least one First Act custom shop in their touring kit. So that was a blast. That was a lot of fun. Had a lot of freedom to kind of do whatever.
Yeah.
But man, it snows a lot in Boston.
Absolutely.
And I had about all the snow I could stand, and it was just kind of starting to grow a family, and it was time to get back down south.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those Northeast winters are no joke, man.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot for me. But, I was there for, I don't know, a little over 6 years, I guess, doing that. And it was a blast. And it's really kind of once that was all done, I got back here. It took a little while to kind of tool up and kind of get going and doing what I'm doing now.
Nice. So that initial move coming from that Boston Northeast area, you came back to Nashville, right? Okay. Yeah. Now we kind of had a conversation on the phone, and I thought it was interesting too, because I think a lot of people don't understand. They see the outside perspective, and they're like, "Oh, this guy just makes guitars."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all he does.
Yeah.
There's nothing else here, right? Now, a lot of the people that I know that are in this sort of work or in social media or anything like that, most of the time, this is not the only source of income they're doing.
No.
So, without going into too much detail about the personal stuff, but how do you manage that professional work versus this work sort of balance?
Man, it's a lot. It's a lot
For
to
sure.
do, as you know. But oddly, it's my experience in the guitar world that has kind of put me in position where in my professional life. So, and there's a long path to reach this, but I am what you would call a wood coatings specialist.
Okay.
Expert of some sort, I
Okay.
guess. So in the past, my customers for the wood coatings that I represent have been a lot of guitar companies, as well as drum companies.
Makes sense.
Large companies. So the same type of finish that I use on my guitars is the same finish that a lot of other large companies that I'm not going to shout out right now
Sure.
are using.
Okay.
And that's just as a result of some of my work.
Right. Well, and it's always funny because it's like, especially, and you probably know better than I do, in the music industry, the overarching thing that we would say, it's not as big as people want to think it is.
It's not. You're 100% right.
And everybody kind of knows everybody in some capacity, just like you were saying with your finishes and whatnot. Like there's so many different relationships that happen outside of just being the guy on stage. Like, and I think that's what the people that automatically have like that blanket idea, that's what they think of.
There's so much that goes into it, and it is very much. It's very much a relationship business. So, it's, and I guess it's this way with any kind of business, but you really want to keep your contacts list updated and maintained, because you don't know where it's going to take you. Again, I didn't set out to be a finish specialist or whatever.
Right.
But that was that's just kind of where the path led me.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, it's intertwined with what you're currently doing with this too. So
Absolutely.
I mean, it's. I always think it's funny. I always would talk to parents would always say something like to the effect of the old adage of when one door closes another one opens, like, and you're never really like. Everything always ends up working out the way it's supposed to. It might not be exactly the way you thought it was going to work out, but it always ends up. You always end up sitting in the right spot where you're supposed to be.
As long as you, I don't think it happens by accident.
Absolutely.
As long as you put yourself out there and work towards it, you can get it. It'll be you just got to be open-minded as to what form that blessing or success may come in.
For sure. And the word success always gets me good, because it's like, well, success is extremely relative for person to person.
Yeah, it means a lot of different things.
For most people, they have, and I'm being very general when I say this, they have that idea of success is they've got so much money they don't know what to do with. It's like, well, I don't think you ever get to that point, because you're always going to have something else you got to buy. You'll find something. Yeah. You'll get a super expensive hobby at that point. It won't just be guitars and stuff like that anymore. You'll be buying, cars and houses and stuff like that.
For people like that have that much money, I can really charge as much as they would like to pay for any of my guitars.
Yeah.
So, come find me.
Yeah.
I can hook you up with the price that makes you feel like you really did something.
Exactly. Well, that's one of the things I was going to kind of segue to is a lot of people that I've seen that do the boutique building stuff, the smaller builders, it is like a quote-unquote higher price point than like a factory-made guitar. Now, that being said, yours, especially here at Tone Central Station, are extremely competitively priced, man. Like, that's one of the things that blew me away. It's like, I'm not only getting a solid, like, quality handmade guitar, but I'm not breaking the bank, man.
So, yeah, there's some intent behind that. Pricing is a difficult thing. Like, for me, at this point in my life, I would rather see people be able to get them.
Right.
I want people to be able to play them. Having grown up as a player and never quite being able to afford the one that I really wanted. I know what that feels like, and I also know what it feels like to be, sweating it out night after night on stage in some dirty club, and You need it to sound right.
Yeah, it needs to be dependable.
It needs to be dependable. It's got to be right night after night.
Yeah.
So, with that understanding, I want people to be able to afford my stuff. So, I'm not. I guess it sounds dumb. I guess I don't know, but I'm not looking to get rich off of this.
For sure.
I would rather leave a legacy of a bunch of people played this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, even stuff like...
Yeah, I can hold that for you.
Like this guy right here. Look. I'm an old punk rock guy, right?
Yep.
I grew up listening to a lot of punk rock stuff. I was fortunate, very fortunate, to have been born in a time where I saw the birth of metal, the birth of punk rock, the birth of rap, the birth of disco, and the birth of, whatever genre. You think so much stuff happened during a certain time period. So as a punk rock guy, one of my favorite bands of all time was always the Dead Boys.
Okay, yeah.
Loved the Dead Boys. And I was very fortunate at some point back in the 90s again, the Dead Boys guitar player, Cheetah Chrome, moved to Nashville for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And we met a few times, hung out a little bit. We talked way back then about making him a custom guitar. And, years and years passed, and we got back in touch. And, of course, the guy is still out there doing it. He's still out there touring with the Dead Boys, and they're still ripping it up night after night. And I reached back out to Cheetah, and I said, man, let's do this guitar thing. So this guitar here, this is the Cheetah Chrome Signature 64. This is my model. It's called the 64, but this is the Cheetah Chrome Signature version of it.
Right.
Okay. Single pickup, wraparound tailpiece, volume tone, and some Grovers.
Yeah.
And it's built to take a beating.
Yeah, I was going to say, building a tank.
It is.
Yeah.
And Cheetah is out there every night playing this thing. And he calls me all the time, man, this thing cuts through everything. I'm like, good,
Yeah.
great. And we have one, his first one is actually on display out in Vegas at the Punk Rock History Museum.
That's awesome.
And this guitar is $1,800.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where can you get it?
And like you said, man, it's reliable. Every time I picked it up, it sounds good, it feels good, and not only the biggest thing, especially being, I think this comes with a little bit more maturity as a player, it has to inspire me to want to play things. And if I can check those boxes when I pick up an instrument, I'm sold. Man,
that's exactly kind of what I look for in it. If a guy can pick this up, here's what somebody told me one time, that you're making art.
Yeah.
And yes, in a way, but you know what I really want to make? I want to make tools.
For sure.
I want this to be the tool through which someone else can make art.
Exactly.
Can express themselves using a tool that I was able to make for them.
Yeah. And I like that you refer to the instruments as tools, because that's how I've always thought about it, especially, doing any sort of playing, any sort of gigging, I have to get the instrument that is going to work for the gig. If I'm going to go play a country gig, I don't need some super shredder Strat with a Floyd Rose.
You don't need that Floyd, huh?
You know what I mean? I very well could.
Sure.
Just like I could, drill a hole with any sort of screwdriver I wanted, but there's one that might be particular for that particular job.
Absolutely.
And I need something that is single coily, telly-ish, that way I can get that spank. But there's all these different applications for your tools that you can have, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like the Shark so much, is because I feel like every time I pick it up, I could do anything with it.
There is a fair amount of versatility in this guy here. This particular one, it's 2 humbuckers, 2 volume, 2 tone, 3-way. Mm-hmm. We're all familiar with that setup.
For sure.
We kind of know what to do with it. However, some things that may be a little different from your average 2 humbucker, 2 vol, 2 tone, 3-way. A hardtail bridge and strings through.
Okay. Yep.
And a bolt-on neck, 6-in-line headstock. Those are all things that make this a little different from your typical setup of this type. So, yeah, you can get a fair amount of spank out of this because of the materials. It's a maple neck and an alder body.
Yep.
And these humbuckers, I'll say, these are custom made for me. They're not available anywhere else.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, same one here.
Okay.
And this is called an ultra clarifier is what the name of it is.
Okay.
These clean up very nicely too. If you roll it back a bit, you can really get a lot of note definition out of it. So yeah, this is a very versatile guitar, and it's been one of the most popular.
Yeah. Well, I love the contour you have on the back where the neck heel's at.
Oh yeah.
Because
You
I like to be a nerd sometimes and play it past
Sure.
the 12th fret, so it
Yeah.
helps me out getting up there a little bit. So
got to get in the wheedly.
that's what I'm saying, man.
This actually is the result of an accident.
Dude, the best things are, man.
I didn't when we first kind of designed this was not intended,
Okay.
but we had a little machinery mishap,
Yeah.
and then after some thought with between myself and my business partner, he was like, maybe we could just scoop it out. I'm like, dude, yes. So we did, and it looked cool, so we keep doing it.
Yeah, dude. Well, and
It feels nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was one of the first things. Aesthetically, I picked it up, and then when I picked it up and started playing, I was like, "Oh, hang on, what's going on here?" You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and I really now, as a result of that, I kind of do that on a lot of different models at this point.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's not so much that it feels uncomfortable. Like where did the neck go at this point when I get up past here? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like I still know where I need to be, and I have like
Yes.
that anchor almost where I can be at.
So that goes back to one of those things we were talking about earlier with innovations in design. One in particular that I thought was a incredibly well designed guitar was like a Parker Fly.
Yeah.
Back when those came out. But and there was no heel whatsoever.
Yep.
It just ran right into the body. And I thought that was really cool. However, as you just said, that's kind of a marker. That's a landmark.
Yep.
For when you get to that and you feel it. So you kind of need it. It's a piece of something that we're too used to just get rid of.
Yeah, I was gonna say with like I was saying with that like playing maturity, like it's like if I'm up here like box 1 minor pentatonic E minor, right? No big deal. But I don't really have to pay attention to that. But anywhere I go past that, now that like you said, having that as like a reference now, it's like okay, now I kind of know where I'm at
Kinda
without
know.
having to
Yeah.
freak out, Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I could not remember that name for the life of me. I'm happy you brought it up, but those Parkers freaked me out because I
Yes.
just didn't know what like the first couple times. I'm sure I could have gotten used to it, but
You would, but that's not what you're looking for when you buy a guitar. You're
Exactly.
not looking for something to get used to.
right.
But they were fabulous. They were very well designed and a lot of amazing technology there. But
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody was looking for that.
No, not at all. Well, I wouldn't say that. There were a handful that I remember like really diving into the Parker stuff, and you saw a lot of really good stuff out of those individuals. But I think that's one of the reasons it was just a little too ahead of its time, a little too over-engineered.
Yeah,
know.
I would say the same thing with maybe Steinberger.
For sure.
And I loved, I actually I was talking earlier. We were talking about touring and stuff. I actually toured with a Steinberger bass and loved it. Not the little rectangle one, but the one that actually had a body to it. I can't remember the model number, but
Okay. Yeah, I think
but
I know what
loved
you're talking
it.
about. Yeah.
it was very consistent. Like night after night, it was exactly the same.
Yeah, and like you said, in that application, that is the tool that was working best for you at
Yeah.
that time, at that point, And that's, like I said, I'm happy you brought that up because that's how I've always referred to instruments.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, it really is a tool.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some other ones that we got over here.
Sure.
You've got your bass over here, and that Mod Shop one. I was playing on it earlier today, and I was like, man, that thing is super sick too.
So, you know what? This is a. This is actually another accident.
Yeah. Okay.
So
You make good accidents.
I
man.
mentioned. Well, I mentioned my business partner earlier.
Right.
This body shape was actually his design,
Okay.
and it was just sitting around his shop for years. I've seen it just laying around, and he got to the point where he was just going to get rid of it, just like
Really?
toss it. And I'm like, what's up with it? And he's like, well, kind of flew into it without really mapping it out. And I got to a point where I just decided I didn't like it anymore, so I didn't touch it again. Like, okay, well. So I said, well, let me mess around with it. And I did a few different things to kind of make it do what I wanted it to do.
Okay.
And we put this nice Schaller bridge on it. And again, volume, tone, three-way, and jack. Oh, you know what? You know what it was? One of the things that he had made the pocket to accommodate just the volume, tone, and three-way.
Okay. So not the
but not the jack.
Yeah.
But then with this contour,
there's no
it's
way.
not big enough to accommodate a jack. So I guess really the main thing I did to it, just to play a part, was I just put a bigger control cavity on the back to accommodate the jack.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And here we are. So yeah, I mean this thing's great. I wouldn't mind doing a couple others. And this is not my headstock design, as you can see, but yeah, it turned out to be a really cool guitar.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I was playing on it earlier today, and I was just like, man, this is one that, like, aesthetically still meets those parameters of where it's different, but it's not outrageous.
It kind of, to me, it kind of has it's got a bit of a 70s vibe to it with the multi-lam and whatnot. I'm wondering, maybe I should have put more like brass on it or something, like it feels to me like those, I don't know if you remember like some of those 70s guitars, like everything was brass.
For sure.
Brass nut, a big brass plate on the back of the headstock, and brass, everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just kind of felt that vibe from this. But, I think it came out nice. And it was just, again, it was kind of an accident.
Well, like I said, man, you make pretty awesome accidents if that's the case. You need to keep messing up.
Yeah, I know. So that's kind of where this came from, and I don't even think we named this. I tend to name my models,
Yeah, for sure.
But this is pretty much a one-off here, so we didn't dig too deep into it.
Fair enough, man.
This guy right here. This is a prototype, and we've got a few more of these coming out soon. This is called a DC6. There's there's some familiarities built into it, both in the feel of the neck, the dimensions of the neck, 3+3 headstock, tilt back headstock, Tunematic style bridge. Double cutaway. This is, this kind of lives in the world of the SG.
I was going to say, yeah.
But I'll say this, it's better.
Okay,
I'm going to say it's built better in pretty much every way, and that comes from having done tons and tons of repairs on broken SGs.
I was going to say, you have the experience of dealing with them, so I'm sure.
This, and this is also most people don't see this. Oh, my guy, this is a prototype. So I have an artist who's been borrowing it for a while. This is a kind of a patented string through system here.
Oh, I see now. Okay, yeah, that's cool.
A lot of a lot of your guys will tell you there's a certain benefit to having your strings anchored in this big chunk of metal on the top of a guitar, like a stop bar.
Sure.
Okay. Sure, there are. And then there's others that will tell you that, you got to have the strings go through the body. That's where it is. I'm like, okay, well, I just thought maybe if those are both good things, let's just do them both.
Marry the two together and see what we've got.
The problem, like with it's not really a problem. It's just something that you run into, say with your standard tunematic stop bar situation. When you take your stop bar and you anchor it all the way down, like a lot of people like to do, to get that angle off the string, you end up hitting the strings end up hitting the back of the bridge housing.
Yep.
People will say that that's a bad thing. Maybe it is. I'm not going to put it on a scope. I'll
Sure.
just take your word for it.
Okay, yeah.
So, but what I did here with this Tune-O-Matic, if you can see, the back of the housing is notched out to allow string passage.
Yeah.
So the intonation screw is offset to the side, so that allows us to make this notch on the back of the Tune-O-Matic and it also has an Allen head adjustment rather than the incredibly painful thumb wheel. Yeah. So because of the design of this Tune-O-Matic, we can anchor our big chunk of metal right here with no problem. And then through that, we have connected here. So this is actually connected internally
I see. I got you now.
to the
okay.
to the tailpiece.
Yep. Okay.
It's really just by two screws.
Sure.
So that's kind of a unique thing. I don't usually even talk about that, to be quite honest, because I kind of think, if you put I've said this before, you put your innovations in quietly and let people discover them.
Right.
And then it's not like something weird.
For sure.
But
Yeah.
this is, at a glance, this is a familiar setup.
Absolutely.
But it's a little more than that.
Yeah, I didn't even notice because before you started talking about it, I thought like you just had some sort of system where you're just putting the ball end
Yeah.
and just holding it, anchoring at the top right here. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was going through the guitar either.
Yeah, so you can get this steep angle, this steep break angle off the saddles and get right through the back of the body there.
Yeah, dude.
And this one is mahogany with a maple neck, rosewood board, jumbo frets. And on this particular model, at least the first offering of it, it's available in black and white,
Okay.
but any color of pickguard that you can think of.
Okay, cool. Cool.
So this is a clear acrylic that's been back painted. So you can really get any color. You could buy multiple pickguards for one guitar and really change the aesthetic.
Okay, that's rad.
really
yeah.
easily. And you just pop it on. It's just a few screws. Nothing
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, and it's not even like I know some of these other pickguards you have where the usually the neck pickup is sometimes held in with
Yeah,
those.
that was part of the design. So you
Yeah.
can. So it just has a ring. I could even do it without a pickguard at
Right.
all,
Yeah.
if I wanted. But yeah, you can really change your whole color scheme just because the pickguard takes up 30% of the body.
Right.
You can really change the whole feel of it by just putting a different color here.
100%. Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah, yeah. There's and the ones I think the first one that I can think of right now that's on order. A guy ordered a black one with a bright red pickguard on here.
Okay, cool.
It's going to be gorgeous. I'm
yeah.
looking forward to getting that completed. But yeah, there's no limit to what color you could get here, really.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that bass we got over here.
Yeah,
that
man.
You guys do.
So this bass is the. This is a Shark bass, and it's the exact same body as the guitar. Still has the scoop in the back and the
Yep.
and comfort carve and the belly carve and arm carve, all that. This is a 34-inch scale, and there's a lot of familiarity here. This nut width is your J style.
I was going to say, yeah.
It does kind of flatten out as you get up higher. Feels a little more pea-ish up here. But really, what are you doing up here anyway if you're playing bass?
Being a nerd.
Get your butt back up here where you belong, where the money is, right? Hipshot ultralight tuners. I'm a big fan of Hipshot stuff. I've used Hipshot for years.
Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, when I first started making that bridge system there, Hipshot was who was making them for me.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
But I use Hipshot tuners on just about everything. Again, 2 custom humbuckers, volume, tone, and a high mass Clouson bridge. This thing, these pickups sound like nothing else. You can dial up just about whatever you want out of it, but it is very much a rock and roll bass all day long.
For sure.
Okay. I kind of built this in a way that having grown up as a bass player, I built it to feel like I wanted it to feel.
Yeah.
And you can really dial in what you want out of this. I love the tone of it, both wide open. I love the sound that when you actually, you're digging in with a pick. It's great. But I really, probably my favorite tone out of it is rolling the tone all the way down and rolling out the bridge pickup and just playing on this neck pickup. It's so smooth. Like you can really get some low end rattle out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was going to say, when I was playing it earlier, man, I had everything pretty much wide open, and that's what really drew me to that bass in particular. Was like, it sounds good if I'm doing just traditional like finger picking stuff, or if I'm doing slap stuff, it sounds great. But like you said, like I didn't realize the potential of it till I hit it with a pick, and I was just like, whoa, this thing is like growling at me now. It
is. It's a different.
Yeah.
It's a different thing, and you can kind of take it in that direction really easily. And I'll tell you, my thing that I'm working on next, I'm actually going to do that body style in a short scale bass.
Okay, cool.
With the same pickups here, and I did one prototype just. It's probably been 6-8 months ago, and I loved it. Like digging eighth notes with a pick, downstroking on it was amazing.
Right.
So I'm thrilled with it. I'm going to make the first one just for me. So
well, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. It's like not only should these instruments be aesthetically pleasing, but they should inspire you to want to play.
Yeah.
Because that's the point of these.
That's
instruments.
The whole thing. That's the whole thing.
And if it's getting you jazzed up just from building it and then playing it, I can't imagine what it's going to do for the customers.
I know it kind of does, and I don't get all that excited about stuff anymore, but I'm kind of jazzed about getting another one of those done to get just for my own personal use. Initially,
that's the thing, and I don't want to. I might be saying the wrong thing here, but like you get used to what you do. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's when that excitement kind of goes away, when it's just business as usual. You're not worried. It's just like, oh, yep, I'm making this today, or I'm doing this today, or whatever. And you've hit something cool when you get excited.
And you know what? That's why you kind of gotta continue to be creative.
For sure.
To keep that excitement about it, and that's part of why. You'll see my stuff, even though it may be the same model, there's little variations between from one to the next, and or from if it's a custom order from one to the next one of those as well. I don't think I would bet with all the Sharks that are out there right now, I don't think there's any two of them that are exactly alike.
Oh yeah.
And that's cool. That keeps me having fun with this.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think they should ever be exactly identical.
The first guy who bought a Shark bass made me promise to not do the color pickguard configuration exactly like his again. I'm like, okay, all right, that'll be yours.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and like we said at the beginning, that's one of the perks of going with a smaller builder is you have that direct communication, and you can get exactly what you want within reason.
You can, and you can have fun.
Yeah.
You can have fun with it and play a role in it. Not like just your. We need off the rack guitars. We need those. We need Strats and Tellys and Les Pauls. We need those to be out there because you got to start somewhere.
For sure.
But you can also have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
You can also be involved in the creation of your personal guitar.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I've heard a lot of musicians that I kind of in circles with about, like, you hear the word sterile, oversaturated, blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, because you have guys and girls playing the exact same guitars to the exact same amplifiers, or if you want to go the digital route, the exact same modelers, the exact same patch. Like, yes, of course everything's going to start to look and sound the same because we're using all the same stuff.
Yeah, it gets a little stale. And I think, we honestly, the music industry, especially the rock and roll industry, we could stand some some kick in the ass right about now, really.
I mean, that's the whole point of
Yeah.
that genre, man. Is
And you know, you got to seek it out. There's some stuff out there. There's a fair amount of underground bands out there now that I've been pretty impressed with. Don't ask me to say any names of them right now because I can't think of any now that I brought it up. But yeah, I run across some stuff on social media fairly often that I'm like, oh yeah, I like that. And you know, I hope some of these bands really do get to come to the forefront a bit. Of course, you know, back in my day, you had to go to the record store and thumb through and just find a cover that looked cool, and then take a chance on it.
Yep.
You know, buy it and take it home. Like, hope this is good.
Yeah. Yeah, now it's like you can get the entire band's discography from however long they started recording in a second.
Yeah,
you know. So, and you can binge it all on a car ride to work if you had to, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I still feel like it's still there as far as, like you said, that rock and roll attitude and, you know, the driving force that makes us want to play guitar. It's just a different application of how we have to do it now.
It's true. It's true. You know, my oldest son is 24.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember maybe back in 2017, 18, something like that, just hearing the music that he was listening to. I'm like, where's all the tough guys at anymore? Where's all the guys that might get in a fight between sets or something?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I miss some of that aggressiveness and danger in the music, but now I'm seeing a little of it bubble back up. Now I'm seeing some rock and roll kind of come back, and I enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, there has to be that element, I think, of danger when you go to a rock show. Like, you know what I mean? It's supposed to be, you know, what are some good buzzwords? It's supposed to be edgy and dank and dark and you know, it's filled with cigarette smoke and beer spilled everywhere, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it's supposed to be like.
Probably some pee on the floor, too.
Most likely. More than likely, you know, from yesterday and today.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. It's like one of those things, I think we get stuck in the moment and everything kind of ebbs and flows. We get these moments of greatness followed by these lulls where we don't have a whole lot going on, then we have these other like it just kind of just a pendulum that keeps coming back and forth, really, more than anything.
It does. You just got to wait for the next swing, you know.
Absolutely. Well, to kind of wrap this up a little bit, I know you kind of said for the future you're going to be doing a short scale bass version of this. Is there anything else on the horizon?
So yeah, I'm working on one called a Wrangler.
Okay.
And it is going to live in the chicken picking world.
Okay, cool.
It's going to have all the familiar single coil quacks and quanks. I just made that word up.
Hey,
but
we're here for it.
That's my
quacks and quanks.
I patented that word.
Yeah.
I'd like to trademark that right now.
Yeah, we got it. It'll at least be the name of the episode. How about that?
That's great. So yeah, I'm working on that. I'm hoping we're going to get that done in the next 4 or 5 months. Get the first prototype out there of that. I've got a great artist who is out there every night killing it on that style of guitar, and so I'm gonna put it in her hands first and let her give it a good run through and get feedback on it and kind of help refine it a little bit.
For sure.
I'm a big fan of player participation in the design. You know, I'm not the best guitar player out here by any stretch, so I may make it in a certain way, but I need the feedback from guys like you who are great guitar players to really.
I wouldn't go that far, but I appreciate it.
I'm going that far. I've heard it, and just to give me that feedback, and especially on prototypes, should I tweak this? Should I tweak that? Let's give this a go or that a go, and just see where it leads. You know.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, dude, I'm excited for it, man. I always like building relationships and seeing where, from like the second I get into the progress that happens, even over like a 12-month period, man, it's always blows me away, all the cool stuff that you guys do. And especially like just the aesthetic of this, and now you're talking about the pick guard and other little tiny little accoutrements of the guitar itself. I'm super floored to see what's going to happen, man.
Let me know how many you want.
I got you. Yeah,
If you
for
buy
sure.
a dozen, you get one free.
All right. Well, before we wrap this up, where can everybody find you at? Social media, websites, all that good stuff.
So yeah, there's the kbutlerguitars.com website. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, TikTok, all of the usual
Everything.
spaces. But if you want to get your hands on one and play one, you got to make a little trip down to here at Tone Central Station and get one in your hands and crank it up loud. They've got a great sound room back there where you really can get loud and play play your favorite riffs. You can play my favorite riffs too if you want.
Awesome. Well, Kelly, I appreciate you taking the time, man, and talking
Thank
about
you.
some of your awesome guitars and kind of the way that you've approached things, and the story of how you got here is really the interesting one for me. I always like the origin story of to the present, because it kind of gives everybody an overarching, well, makes sense now. You know what I mean? It's not just one piece of the story, it's the whole thing.
Well, man, I appreciate you letting me spout off here and say all
Oh,
that stuff.
absolutely, man.
It's been a blast, and thanks for having me. Hopefully we can do some more stuff in the future.
For sure.
And I'm a guy that's always gotten by on my looks, so
Yeah.
this will probably be your most watched
More than likely.
video.
More than likely.
Yeah, clearly.
Well, for all of you guys watching, appreciate you guys. Check out all the links down below for Caleb Butler Guitars, and we will check all of you guys next time on Man the Helm Podcast.
Later.